made that mistake of being silent for many, many years. It is really important to help each other as women.
So hi Anna, welcome to the Healing Hour. I'm so grateful to have you here today. My guest today is Ana Gonzalez Herrera. She's the founder of the Hormone University, which is an educational platform with the mission to improve hormone health through accessible knowledge. And after 2 years of research, she also started Glow Botanica.
Thank you for having me here, Anabel.
Of course, really grateful to have you. So let's start with your beginning. What brought you to this journey and what put you on this path to doing what you're doing today?
It was a really long journey with a very difficult condition that I had to go through for over a decade. That condition is called endometriosis. It affects about 15% of women, and that's the diagnosed stat. So people actually believe that it's more than that. It's a very, very painful condition. And for those who don't know and are listening to the podcast, it's a condition that can infiltrate. It comes from the lining of the uterus and it infiltrates any organ in your body, and it has a lot of ramifications. And so one of them is very extreme premenstrual syndrome, bloating, nausea, really tough pain. In my case, it affected my fertility, and I had to go through 5 surgeries, and the last one had to be a full hysterectomy, which led into a surgical menopause. So very difficult journey. And of course, I was working and I had a great career in personal care. And that really affected me, not just personally, but also professionally. And I had to just use my time in a different way and had to mask my symptoms, taking a lot of ibuprofen and medication to help the pain.
Yeah, I bet. Yeah, endometriosis is like this one thing that I think a lot of women don't, or a lot of people don't really talk about. It's like this thing that you keep to yourself. I just recently became aware of endometriosis when my friend got diagnosed with it about like a year ago. And I thought it was insane because it literally just gave her the option of either she has to take the pill or she would need to go through an operation. And I was like, what? That's really the only option they give you? And I was so frustrated by it that I was like, okay, we're going to go on a mission and we're going to figure this out. And so I've been like talking to so many people in this space, and especially like how can you with Chinese herbal medicines or with mindfulness and all of that, how can you actually tackle this problem in a different way? But I think it's beautiful that with the Hormone University, you're actually trying to bring this knowledge together, because I think that is one of the biggest issues, is that there is a lack of knowledge and women are afraid of actually talking about it. So having a platform where there's like this community where you can actually speak with other women that are going through the same thing is I think really, really helpful. And as you just mentioned, the goal of the Hormone University is to educate, support, and empower women to achieve better hormone health. Why do you believe this is so important?
Yeah, you mentioned a very important factor on that, silence, which is something that I really made that mistake of being silent for many, many years. Yeah. You know, if you think about how many women stay silent and the stigma around it. Yeah. And so it is really important to break it and to help each other as women. And for us, giving the power of knowledge is the basic, is the foundation of everything. Because once you have that knowledge, you can really look for the right solutions for yourself. And so it's not just endometriosis. So Hormone University is about very different topics and really covering a range of subjects from premenstrual syndrome all the way to menopause. And also many women go through thyroid issues as well and many, many other conditions. And so we believe that your wellness is going to start with knowledge. And that's why we created Hormone University.
100%. What do you think it is that women tend to suffer in silence?
Yeah, I think there are many different factors. We've got societal issues, cultural issues. There is also, I believe, a fact that is accessible knowledge, but also the difference with men, right? Oh, yeah. So if you think about, let's take a woman who's born in Afghanistan versus a woman who's born in the US, the silence that surrounds that and all the past generations that have told us to, you know, there is this shame also attached to it, this embarrassment attached to it. And we have been told from multiple generations, you know, stay quiet and just go through it. So there are, I believe, many different factors, and we are lucky that we live right in the US. I come from Spain, you come from Germany. So we've had it easy in comparison with other cultures and other geographies.
Yeah. Looking at what women especially are going through right now in the world is like crazy how fortunate we actually are to live in this culture and to be raised in the US or me in Germany. With the Hormone University, you also plan to work with brands that look more into like clean and sustainable hormone health products to raise awareness about hormonal conditions and menstrual equity. How are you planning to do that?
Yeah, I just want to go back to an important point, and that's that we're facing a hormonal health crisis. When I was going through my own condition, I started looking into endocrine disrupting chemicals, which are basically these chemicals that surround all of us and that really, really affect our hormonal health. Again, for your audience to see what I mean about health crisis or hormonal health crisis, 1 in 4 couples are suffering from infertility. You've got women going through polycystic ovarian syndrome, that's 20% of women, endometriosis, 15% of women, and 85% of women going through menopause have very, very strong symptoms. So overall, 80% of women go through hormonal imbalance. So that's not a niche market that some people call it, right? And so it's really crucial for us as a company to not just give the knowledge, but also give the tools for people to buy safe products. And so safety is important as a philosophy and mission of our company. And we have launched a certification called the Seal of Approval that will basically certify products and brands, and it will show that they don't have any endocrine disrupting chemicals. So very focused on ingredients and also the fact that they don't go through pesticides, and they really give that clean formulation, whether it's a supplement or a cream.
Yeah.
And we believe that's very important, even like baby products. Yeah. So there are like thousands of products out there that have these chemicals, and we want to really tackle that.
So if I, as a customer, go into a place and I find a product that has your seal on it, I know that it was verified by you and I can trust that.
Exactly. So we have a board of advisors, and the process goes very much independent of us, and they do it in parallel. So different doctors and different experts. So environmental health experts, we've got a toxicologist, we've got an OBGYN, a food science expert, and they take all the information and they give us their comments or questions if there are any. And if not, effectively that's what you can expect as a consumer, is that you're going to have and use a safe product.
Yeah, I think that's really key in this industry right now, is because it's like such an oversaturated market,
right,
with tons of products. Like for me, like the most shocking thing was when I came to the US first and I walked into CVS. Right. And I was like, what's going on here? Like, how do I as a customer actually know which brand to trust? And there is a lack of regulations in the US as well.
Yeah.
So I think it's really hard as a customer to navigate through the alleys of like products and actually pick the one where you know it's not dusting, it is inside what it says it is, and I can be sure that the product is pure and that it's potent. And so I think that's also one big thing that we're tackling with the Healing Company, is really picking out these brands, the products that have that are credible, that are trustworthy, and that have really they're backed by science or some kind of research. So I think that's really great that you have the seal for women to really know that is a product that they can truly trust,
right,
and that will help them. According to a study that you have published on your website, it seems that menstrual hygiene products are unaffordable for nearly 2/3 of low-income women. How can that be?
Yes, it's crazy, right? It is
absolutely crazy.
It is crazy. And that's something that we started looking into quite a few years ago. We started looking into something called the tampon tax. There are two types of taxes. One is the pink tax, and the other one is the tampon tax. The pink tax, which I think is worth mentioning, is that if you go and buy a product that might be a razor, right? When it's marketed towards women, the price is higher. So if you compare a razor for a man versus the same company having a razor for a woman, the price the price tends to be about 20% higher. So,
Wow.
and then when it comes to menstrual products, you've got the tampon tax, which is basically for anything that's menstrual products, so sanitary pads, tampons, etc. And you have this tax in the US and all over the world, whereas it's considered a basic necessity. This tax tells you that it's a luxury product. So think about that menstrual inequality, because why do we have to pay the price of a product that really is a necessity for all of us? So
exactly.
if you come from a low income family and you're having to pay for these products, think about it monthly during years and years and years, it will take a toll in your family economy, right?
Yeah.
So we did a strong effort to really push local governments to really take that tax away. So from 35 states a couple of years ago having the tampon tax, which is crazy, it went down to 22 states.
Wow.
So there is a movement in the right direction, but still a lot to be done.
Yeah. For me, it's insane because saying it's a luxury good means theoretically that we as women could choose if we want to have our menstrual cycle or not.
Right.
Which is like ridiculous because it's part of our nature.
Right.
It's like we cannot choose if we want to have it or not. And we cannot choose if we need it or not because we need it if it's there. So really great job that you have reached that already. How would you say that the lack of access to period products really affects teenagers in particular?
Yeah, this is an important subject as well, because teenagers, if they don't have the means to buy menstrual products and they start reusing them, then you've got an issue with infections.
Yeah.
So bacteria, exactly, and it can create a whole lot of problems. And it's something that, again, that we really need to focus on really helping that. It's very unfair.
Yeah. For me, it's so hard to understand coming from like such a fortunate place.
Right.
It's just, I really feel sorry for all these people that have to go through that and where they feel like they are responsible for the condition they're in, which is so wrong.
Right.
On your website, you also share a lot of expert opinions. You have a blog site, and which I really love because it gives like this overall view about all things hormones. And I think people sometimes don't actually realize the amount of effect hormones actually have in our body, right? They're kind of responsible for a lot going on, a lot. And so really seeing this like page where you have like experts talking about all different areas, such as fertility, diet, sex drive, is really important. How do you see diet and specifically being related to our hormone health?
Diet has a direct impact into our hormonal health. So if you think about macronutrients and if you think about micronutrients, and I will give a specific example of micronutrients like calcium, like vitamin D and magnesium. Those are crucial for hormonal balance. And so just that example, if you think about it, so that any deficiencies that we have in terms of nutrients are going to have an effect in our progesterone levels, in our estrogen levels, testosterone levels, and that will have that knock-on effect in many other aspects of our hormonal health, whether it's physical or emotional or mental. So diet has a direct impact, and exercise as well. So our everyday habits will really help or not help our hormonal health.
How would you say, and specifically like exercise, would you say exercise is being something where you have to go out and run and sweat and do HIIT exercises? Or what would you define exercise that is really good for hormonal health?
It's a very important subject because also you have to think about what exercise, not only what exercise can you do in different phases of your, let's say, month.
Yeah.
So if you have your period, you should be focused on a different exercise than if you're a woman going through menopause.
Yeah.
So we have a lot of information about that, and exercise affects, kind of creates your serotonin. It helps with your happy hormones. It helps you sleep.
Yeah.
And so it does have, again, a direct impact in your hormonal health. You know, we often say just moving is really important. Yeah. Movement, not sitting down all day long. And there are many things that you can do. You can do yoga, you can do Pilates. And so you have to see how you feel, and you have to listen to your own body as well, and see what works for you. I mean, I don't like running, for example.
So many people out there don't.
Yeah.
It's like this one thing that's like 50-50.
Right.
You love it or you hate it.
Exactly. And so, but I do love dancing. I do love Pilates and yoga. It helps also with my mental health. And I think that's what we all have to think about, is what works for each one of us, and then just focus on that and create your own routine.
I think that the one thing that you said is that exercise is actually also dependent on, or what kind of exercise you do is dependent on where you're at in your menstrual cycle as a woman.
Yeah.
It's actually something that I just learned recently. I wasn't ever aware of it. When I did my yoga teacher training in India, they told me about like how different yoga exercises are meant for different environments. So if you're in the heat or if you're in the cold, you shouldn't do some exercises that you do in the heat, in the cold, and the other way around. So I learned already how like exercise and environment really go hand in hand. But now, just recently, I became aware of like, oh, I actually shouldn't do a HIIT training when I'm like on my period, because already my body is going through like a detoxifying phase, and like it's a little weaker than normally. And I always pushed myself, and I thought like, oh, didn't I sleep well, or what did I do wrong, or something like that. So I kind of was upset with myself if I didn't have the energy that I thought I would have. And now, learning to really like plan my exercises around like where the stages I am at in my menstrual phase is so powerful, because you can really tell that like just getting more in tune with your body and creating a more awareness around it, and like sitting down and being like, what does my body need today? And sometimes it might just be like some stretching, maybe some like calm walks. Sometimes it might be like just going crazy and like working out, but your body really tells you what you need. So I think it's really important that women also learn to become really aware and to not punish themselves if they don't feel like doing something crazy, and just really listen, because it actually has a much better effect. Because if you do something that your body doesn't feel like doing, it will have the stress hormones that are being released, and that will cause inflammation in your body. So there's a whole range of things happening if you don't listen to your body. So I think that is really, really key as well.
I'm glad you mentioned that. I went through the same, and I would punish myself constantly, like I'm not doing enough exercise, and you might not have the energy. So definitely, for anyone listening, go check out those articles, and they tell you exactly what type of exercise you should be doing in which part of your cycle. And it's fascinating because it really works.
Yeah. And dancing is always a good solution.
It's always a good solution.
Because dancing always makes you happy. It releases happy hormones. It never feels like a workout. So if you don't feel like doing something hard, just dance a little bit, which is great.
Right.
Let's talk a little bit about aging and hormones. Is there anything we have to become more aware of as we age in relationship to our hormones?
Our hormones will decline with age. So key hormones that I'm going to talk about are progesterone, estrogen. They're both really important for many different things. They govern many different things, not just our sexual reproductive function. They also regulate mood, anxiety, and depression. So to give you one specific example on menopause, which is of course what happens when we get to a certain stage in life, and those hormones will start declining. I'm all about trying to prevent, and I think that for those hormones that will decline, it's just how it is. You just have to really have that awareness that you can do many things to really help yourself with aging. So stress levels are also super impactful when it comes to aging. So if you think about here of situations where someone has gone through a very traumatic event, and they say, oh my God, that person has aged so much, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So that is because they've had a major change in their hormone levels because of that traumatic experience. There are many things that we can do on a daily basis, and that's really the message. It is, of course, life can take you through difficult phases, but you can really be aware and do whatever strategies might help you so that, reverse aging is not going to happen, but you can help with your immune system, for example. That's really important. and manage those levels so that they don't go crazy, up and down.
I like what you just raised with the fact that me and my fiance, we talk about it a lot, that sometimes we have like some family friends that have been going through like phases where a lot of family members have passed away, and we've seen them again after like a couple of months, and we're always like, wow, he aged a lot. I really like this awareness that you just brought up of, if you go through a traumatic experience, something is happening in your body. And that is also like the mind-body connection again that we have to really be aware of and think about. Is there anything for someone that is going through a traumatic experience that you would recommend that could really help them to slow this reaction down in the body?
Absolutely. Well, we go back to diet.
Yeah.
When we go through a traumatic experience, many people might start to drink more, for example. And so diet is crucial, and it is really tough, for all of us that have gone through things in life. But just have in mind that if you really focus on an excellent diet, it will help slow you down. Work on yourself, get help, get therapy, go to an expert to really help you psychologically to go through that experience. Again, in many cultures, like seeking help, psychologically speaking, is, again, there is a stigma behind it. And I was saying to a friend the other day, you had a UTI, right? And you went to the doctor straight away. So
why don't you do it for your mental health?
For your mental health is as urgent, because it takes longer. So it's really important that you do that and you put yourself first. And try not to fall into, of course, negative habits that will have that impact.
I think that's a really important factor. People always think that going to a psychologist, then something is wrong with them and they have an issue. Like, nothing is wrong with you. It's actually really great if you're so aware of yourself that you go and seek help. Like, asking for help is a really great characteristic to have, and never be afraid of that, because it's so important. Because you as a person, you can't have the solution for everything. There are so many people out there that can guide you to get to a place where you feel better.
Absolutely. And that goes for men and women, of course. I mentioned menopause, but I did not mention andropause. And andropause affect men, and that means that their testosterone levels are going to go down, and they might have an inclination to have more anxiety or depression. And so, and the sexual drive changes, right? So that will also have an impact in their mental health. So yes, effectively, everything is interconnected, and therapy is an investment. And it will affect your hormone levels and your aging and your overall well-being.
The first time I got a life coach, I never really called them like a psychologist. I say like my life coach, was even in a phase where I didn't feel like sad or depressed or was like afraid of something. I just felt like I wanted someone to guide me to find like, what are my passions in life? Like, what do I want to do with my life? Like, how do I interact with the people around me? Because at a young age, I was already dealing with much older people than I was. So like, how do I, as a younger person, speak to people that are older than me? Or like, just giving me like little guidance of like how to deal with like day-to-day interactions. And that already was so helpful. And like you said, it was such an investment, and it helped me to become more confident and to trust myself and to become more in tune with myself. So you don't always have to only seek for a psychologist if you're like feel anxious or depressed or sad or something. That person can even help you to elevate yourself from one level to the next. So I think
Great message. Yeah, I did the same. And I have my life coach, and it helps me so much as an entrepreneur to cope with the ups and downs and with the stress levels, and to elevate effectively and to be the best leader I can. So it's about growth, and so it's important.
One thing I just want to go back to is menopause, because I think people always think of menopause as something that is happening maybe in your late 50s, 60s. But I know that you have seen a lot of women, and you yourself was someone who went through menopause much earlier than that. Maybe you can explain what menopause actually means, and that it's not something that only happens when you age.
Yeah, so let's start with the meaning of the word.
Exactly.
Menstrual pause. That's why it's called menopause. Effectively, there are women that go through the usual path is perimenopause, and on average, more or less, that's kind of like late 30s, beginning of 40s, and then you go into menopause. And that is a process of 7 years, usually 7 to 8 years. There are many women that go through early menopause, a lot earlier, so like mid 30s. And then there is the other, let's say, number of women, me, myself included, which have to go through surgical menopause, or women that have gone through cancer and they have to be put into menopause. So you measure if your menopause is 12 months without your period. Surgical menopause for me was very, very tough. All of a sudden, from one day to the next, you have no reproductive organs, and you have gone like let's call it a normal life, into these crazy hot flashes and really strange sadness as well. And of course, because these hormones have stopped. So it is something that we as a company want to really create awareness that, first of all, let's take that stigma away from that word and not think about old age and menopause.
Exactly.
Because there are many women out there that have gone through surgical issues or conditions and they are put into menopause.
If I may ask you a little more personal question, I know you went through surgical menopause, which means that your reproductive organs were removed. I think we mostly feel a lot of times, obviously, that whatever is happening within our body is somehow connected to us, right? It's like it's part of us. It's our body. It's where our soul is. After your surgical menopause and your reproductive organs were removed, did you feel like something was missing? Did you actually have like that emptiness within you that you felt?
Yeah, look, I get a little teary.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's the first process is grief, because you're like, oh God, my ovaries are gone and my uterus is gone. And so it's a really, really tough process. And of course, I went to seek help, and I really wanted to connect with myself and my femininity. And it was a very tough process of, okay, just because I don't have my reproductive organs doesn't mean I can't be feminine. And there is a psychological aspect that is very strong about this. Going back to our point of seeking help, that's what helped me the most. So I will never forget this moment where I was sitting with this woman that I didn't know at all, and she was introduced to me by a friend of mine, and she just happens to do retreats for femininity, and she's absolutely amazing. And so we had this conversation, and that completely transformed the way I thought about what I was going through. And I continued talking to her, and it really helped me connect with my feminine side, and not to think that this is a loss, but what I lost was the pain and nothing else.
Which is amazing that you're no longer in pain. I think that's because pain is the one thing that, like, I think just drives you nuts. If you're like in chronic pain all the time, it's like what people really struggle with. I went through a phase when I was modeling and I lost so much weight. I was like teeny tiny, and I got really like chronic migraines. I got anxious in that phase, and suddenly from one day to the other, I lost my period, and I was like, "What's going on?" And it's like it scared me because I didn't know what was going on, and like we cannot look inside of our bodies, right? We just feel what the outcome is, and so for 1 year I had no periods, and I was like really afraid that I could never become a mother, or that something happened within me that I couldn't like change anymore. And so that's really when I felt, okay, I had to take my health into my own hands. And nutrition course at IAN, went to India, where I felt I really had to connect back with me and my personal health, and like get in tune with what's inside of me. Because I think that's like so many times we just like look into like we just look into the mirror and see how we look, but we are not in tune with actually what is behind that outer image that we create for ourselves. And India really helped me there. But then luckily I was actually introduced to a guy in Germany who did mostly like physiotherapy. He went much like further than that, and he said that he could help me with actually finding the connection back to my uterus area. And so he helped me. I had a couple sessions with him, and then he actually put his hands right here, and he told me to breathe into there. And I was like, breathe into it. So I just breathed into my stomach, and he was like, no, you're not there yet. And over again, until he said, like, now you hit the spot. You breathe right there. And like 3 days later, I got my period back. And that was like over a year of not having my period. And I was like, nutrition was a big part of it, because I started eating well again, and I was so nutrient deficient because I was like just living off of some salad leaves. And I got back like this rainbow diet and just like really eating all the colors and get my nutrients back in. And then with the help of him getting really in tune with my body, I got it back. And that was just for me this like life-changing moment where I was like, wow, what did I do just to myself? I was like actually really upset that I was like so in this world of like, how do I want to look, that I felt so horrible, and that how the way I looked was more important to me than how I felt. And now it's literally completely turned around. Now I'm just like, I wake up every morning and I'm like, how do I feel?
Right.
From a scale of 1 to 10. And then that's how I pursue my day, and not, oh, how do I look today?
Right.
It's like completely different. And I feel like also the way you feel then portrays into the way you look, because
Totally.
you will have a smile on your face, your eyes will be glowing, your skin is glowing, and there is so much connection from the way like we look and feel. So that was really important, like a life moment for me where I really learned about myself. But you also started this incredible brand, Globotanica, after you've done like 2 years of research. You say that Globotanica is an alternative to hormone replacement therapy. Can you explain what hormone replacement therapy exactly is?
Yes, of course. Yes, so I was put in hormone replacement therapy when I went through surgical menopause.
Yeah.
And the reason why I started Glow was because I had a life-threatening side effect from it. So I had a blood clot, and I had to stop it. So, it was like the cherry on the cake. And I really was very desperate to find a solution, and spend a lot of time to really find something for myself that I couldn't find. So I created Glow because of that experience as well. It was quite an incredible process, because I found out that every ingredient in nature is what pharmaceutical companies use to create pharmacological products.
Yeah.
So I often give the example of the willow bark, which is used for aspirin. I found out that many, many years ago, in the 50s, pharmaceutical companies were using the root of this plant called Wallium root, and this extract called diosgenin, in order to create the contraceptive pill. So I started talking to really prominent doctors, and we created that first formulation for tummy butter, which I'm really excited that you're gonna try it. And it really helps with the stimulation of progesterone and estrogen. So it really just helps with hormonal balance.
Yeah.
So it has a multi-symptom effect, and formulation completely clean, of course. And we added other great ingredients like marshmallow root for bloating, and Vitex as well, which helps with a range of different symptoms, including, and I have to be careful saying this, but it has been used for centuries for fertility. Yeah. So we created a transdermal solution, and you have to use it daily, you have to be consistent. But after doing 4 studies, we saw that the symptom relief was absolutely outstanding. So finally.
Why transdermal and not capsules or powders?
First of all, our OBGYN, which is our lead scientific advisor, when I came to her with that idea, I personally struggled taking too many supplements.
Yeah.
And I also thought that from a company's perspective, it was going to be really hard for us as a startup to create a brand that is competing with thousands of products in the market, and it's also competing with like all these different messages. So I wanted to create something different, and also to create a different routine for a woman that is more kind of what you do on a daily basis when you put on a cream, and give that bloodstream effect, immediate effect through your skin. Yeah, so our OBGYN was like wow, this is fabulous. This is a great idea. And there are many women also suffering from gut issues. And so, going through your skin is great. It's going straight to your bloodstream, not messing with your gut, and direct impact.
And I love that you focus really on plant-based medications, because for me, that's like music to my ears, is that actually pharma back then was based from plants, and they derived chemicals from plants, which are now artificially made or synthetically made, but a lot of medications really derive from plants. And so I think we really lost this connection to planet Earth and to Mother Earth, and like what was given to us by nature. So I love all the brands that are actually taking that back in and showing like our product is derived from plant-based medications, and it works. It actually works.
Yeah.
And so like coming from other places around the world where like these medications are passed on from centuries to centuries, they know that it works. But like in the Western world, I think there is still this like little bit of like criticism, or they're not really, I would say, scared because they're not aware if it's working or not. There's like this lack of credibility as well. I'm really supporting that.
That's great. Yeah, if you think about Ayurveda, right?
Yeah. One of the oldest
practices, and it works, and there are hospitals, Ayurvedic hospitals. And so, I strongly believe that we can really heal ourselves with coming from nature, and creating great formulations is what we do.
Yeah. And you've partnered with lots of universities to do the studies and the research behind your products. Can you share a little bit more about the results, or did you also make other results other than the tummy butter researches, or was it only mostly the tummy butter that you did?
Yes, it was our first product. So we decided to do the research with tummy butter predominantly because of the focus of the product, which is premenstrual syndrome and menopause. And we did two studies before we launched with women going through premenstrual syndrome, perimenopause, and menopause. And what seemed like a very long process, we had this company that was conducting the study. They created a great app. They had all these women registering their symptoms. And it was a wonderful moment when I got a call from the owner, and he said that he's never seen this effect after a study where all these women were like, when is this product going to launch?
Amazing.
So we've had an average of 74% symptom relief, which is incredible, and 53% bloating relief. We've also had other effects which were wonderful for women having low sexual drive. So it has had a brilliant effect in libido and other aspects too. Like they tell us, I feel so much better. My mood has changed. The heavy menstrual flow has been reduced. Hot flashes from like 8 hot flashes a day to 2.5 hot flashes a day. And so really strong results. And of course, we are delighted. And now that the product has been in the market for a year, we get all these emails all the time, and it's just wonderful. So it's I feel very, very proud.
You should. And another product you have is a magnesium lotion. And I know that magnesium really plays an important role when it comes to hormonal imbalance. Can you share a little bit more about the importance of magnesium as a micronutrient, why we need it, and why it's so important in our overall health as well?
Absolutely. Yeah. Magnesium is if you have deficiency in magnesium, it can really have an effect in many different ways in your hormone levels. Actually, most of the population have a magnesium deficiency. And only just recently, there is this trend about magnesium. So it's a very important and very crucial mineral that we need. It helps with stress hormones, with cortisol levels, and it helps with a variety of things. It's called a miracle mineral because of that. So we decided to focus on two important aspects of our lives: stress and sleep. Magnesium can help with both stress and sleep. And we also added collagen and evening primrose oil, which will help with hormonal balance too. So we actually source it from the Sea of Holland. It's called Zechstein magnesium, one of the purest in the world, sustainably sourced. So we are having, again, just loads of women and men using our product and telling us that it really, really helps with the way they feel and to sleep better as well.
Yeah, and there are so many different forms of magnesium as well.
Yes.
I think that's really important to say, talk about as well, because I know that there's like magnesium citrate, magnesium glycinate, and for example, myself, I cannot take magnesium citrate. It doesn't make me feel well. I get really bloated through that.
Mm-hmm.
So I switched to magnesium glycinate, and that works much better for me. So which form of magnesium do you use in your products?
I think Sextine is citrate.
Citrate, okay.
But being the fact that it's transdermal, it changes a lot.
Okay.
And again, we did a lot of research.
Because it doesn't go directly into, it doesn't have to go through your gut. It goes straight. Okay, that makes a lot of sense. Yeah.
So we have not had anyone reporting any side effect at all. It's in fact the contrary. A lot of people tell us this is great because I can't take magnesium.
Right. You'll get my feedback as well.
Yes, please.
We are right now living in an epidemic of stress. People are really stressed out. People are in living these fast-paced lives. They're just work focused most of the times. They don't have this life-work balance anymore. And I think a lot of times we really forget that we're humans, right? And that we cannot work like machines. Even myself, I always realize when I come to New York, I suddenly pick it up as well. And I adopt this fast-paced energy, and I just run on the streets, and I'm like, why am I running? I can literally walk. But you just go crazy. How would you say we can equip our bodies to the today's stresses of the world? And is there anything we should do to really calm ourselves down during the day so we're not in this constant loop of stress, and which causes so much inflammation in our body?
Yes, great question there, and affecting all of us, especially in big cities. When you come to New York City, it's
such a fast-paced life.
It's
just
it's like something happens, and you're like, yes, and well, connecting with nature is the first thing I would say, that we all have to make a little bit of an effort. And whether you're in a city that has a river or any small park close to you, it's really crucial that we take that time for ourselves, to be present, to really observe what's happening around us, and look at whatever trees you have around us, and appreciate what you have in front of you. I think gratitude is another thing that will really, really help us. We can't have two feelings at the same time. So if you're grateful, you're not going to be feeling stressed out. And so it's a constant work, I think, to be aware of this and not to fall into the rat race of rushing all the time or being in the future. They say that 90% of what we worry about never happens.
Yeah, I know.
Right? So
I said that to someone lately, and they were like, what is the one tip you would give every, an entrepreneur or someone who starts a business? I'm like, literally 90% of your worries, they turn out as nothing.
Exactly.
And so that's one thing I think you always have to pull back in and be like, you know what? Everything's gonna be all right. And what is the worst thing that can happen, really? Right?
Yes.
What is really the worst thing that can happen? One thing I really want to point out again is this gratitude thing that you just said, because if you cannot have two feelings at the same time, and if you're stressed, if you're worried, if you're sad, if you're upset, just take the moment to sit down and really think about what am I really grateful about right now in this moment. And it switches your energy and everything in your body straight away. And I've done this so many times. Sometimes my fiance has to make me aware of it again. He's like, Bella, what are you grateful about right now? And I'm like, yep, you're totally right. I have to bring it back in, because it does change your mood straight away. And I can really feel how my whole nervous system calms down if I just take the moment to sit down and be grateful for something and have this moment of gratitude. And I think one thing as well is that I've become really aware of here in New York especially is when people on the streets, they're constantly looking on their phones. No one is really looking up anymore.
Right.
And so I really urge everyone to take the moments in between meetings or walking from one block to the next to just put your phones in your pockets and look up, see the sky, see the trees, try to listen to the birds. I know it's hard in New York because there's so much noise around, but just really become aware of your senses. Smell, hear, see, and I think that already is such a moment that might last just for a minute or two or three, but that already changes so much within your body. and your whole cells and everything, how they function. So
Yes.
I really feel that that is something that has helped me a lot.
Yes, and it's a great message. We need to remind ourselves all the time to be grateful. And you mentioned India. I was there many years ago as well, and I did a voluntary time there. I remember going back to London and thinking, wow, aren't I lucky?
Yeah.
All the time. And I did a month of not complaining in my head. It was a great exercise. It's very tough.
It is tough.
It's so
because
tough.
Sometimes you even complain and you don't even realize that you're just complaining. You're like, oh my God, I just complained. Why did I do that?
Right.
Yeah.
So,
and we complain much more than we think we do.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Tell us a little bit about your personal wellness routine. Like, what is really essential to you?
Yeah. So I do once or twice a year, I do a fasting retreat. And that's something that has helped me immensely.
Yeah.
I love fasting. It is really hard.
It is really
hard. But I think that has helped me not just for my health and inflammation and anything, whatever is going on. I have truly embodied a miracle when I have gone through fasting. I really think it's something that everyone should try.
Yeah.
So I try to do it twice a year, minimum once a year. And then on a daily basis, I do meditate, even if it's 5 minutes. I love tapping. Tapping is, I find it very, very calming. And I try to do that at least twice a week. I, of course, exercise. I can't function otherwise.
Yeah.
Really important. In the winter, not so much maybe now, but in the winter, I have this infrared sauna. And again, just detoxifying and getting rid of whatever is in your body that is toxic. I find that very, very good for me. It just works for me. So those are kind of like the things that I do. And then from an emotional perspective or mental well-being, I really try to spend time in nature, go upstate New York, or when I go back home, south of Spain. I'm from the south, so it's like you've got the Mediterranean there, and spending time with family and friends. I call them vitamin love, because it's
so important.
So important, exactly.
Yeah, community and spending time with the people you love is so key. I went to visit a blue zone. I went to visit a blue zone in Greece called in Ikaria, and I really went. We talked with the elderly people there and tried to figure out what are they doing differently that we are not doing. And one thing that really came out over and over again was community, love. That they still felt the sense of purpose within their community. Right. Because I feel like nowadays in our world, a lot of times, as soon as you get older, you're like, oh, there's the older ones. We don't want to hang out with them. We don't want to they're annoying, and we push them out of our society. But they are the wise ones. They're the ones that we should learn from.
Yes.
And they have this community aspect where really in these blue zones, the older ones are the ones that the younger ones look up to, that they want to learn from, that they listen to. And it's they have this really this sense of belonging still. So I think love, community, family, that is really a key thing that everyone should implement. And it's not hard at all. Just call your mom and call your friends and spend some time with them and really have this community aspect. And that already is one key to longevity. If there is one daily practice that you feel everyone should adopt to live a healthier, more fulfilled life, what would that be?
Being present. Being present.
I agree.
Yeah, it's just take 5 minutes.
Yeah.
It changes everything. So, I think so.
I think in the whole wellness industry, we talk a lot about the how, how do we implement new changes? How do we live a healthier life? How do we diet? How do we exercise? But a lot of times we forget the why. Why are we actually doing this? Why are we doing what we're doing? Why should we live a healthier life? I would love to know what your personal why is, why you're doing what you're doing today with the Hormone University personally.
Yes, it's a very strong why. Yeah. It's become my life's mission. When you're suddenly facing in life the fact that you can't have children, this has become my child, and it's being nurtured, and it's a very important why. And there are 3.3 billion women out there going through hormonal imbalance, and I really, from my heart, want every single one of them to help themselves, to advocate for themselves, and not to go through any suffering, especially in silence. So yeah, we do have a very strong why.
Yeah, that's powerful. I think that personal experiences are always like big drivers in the lives of everyone, really, why they're doing what they're doing, which is why I'm doing what I'm doing with the healing company, is really the big driving force always behind that. And that is also what makes it, I think, what makes these companies thrive so much. If you actually have people behind it that know what they're talking about because they went through it themselves. And so that's, I think, a really strong why. In today's world, we tend to give ourselves a lot of labels. How we look, especially, like, for example, I have blonde hair, I have blue eyes, I'm tall, and I'm German. If you would have to remove all your labels, how would you describe yourself?
I'm just a woman that really wants to help other women without judgment. I really want everyone to be heard and seen. I'm here to hopefully leave a little bit of legacy and a positive contribution without any labels, right?
Yeah,
We're all human beings. I really hope with empathy and tolerance that no matter what religion you are, no matter what background you come from, it's just all about feeling good and avoiding anything that might conflict with your well-being. Yeah. So that's really what it is.
And what's your personal meaning of joy?
It's fulfillment and purpose. Yeah. And it's funny, when I was going through my career and I was doing so well, in the beauty industry, I'm traveling all over the world. It's different, right? Yes, okay, we're like all these beauty brands, it's exciting, but this has totally transformed the way I look at work. I don't call it work anymore, because it's I'm so fulfilled, and so it changes everything. It's the hardest thing I've ever done. By far, the most fulfilling thing I've ever done.
Let's talk a little bit about your personal inspiration. Are there any books or podcasts that you have listened to that provided you a lot of inspiration in life?
Well, I'll be listening to this podcast for sure. I'm a big podcast person, and I love certain books that have really transformed the way I think. So one of them is called Mindset, and it's all about a growth mindset, and I really recommend it. Everyone should read that book. It was written by a psychologist, and it changes the way you look at obstacles in life, and it can apply to anything and every day. So that's one. Power of Now by Eckhart Tolle has been a great one. I have been a great follower of Deepak Chopra for many, many, many years. So there are so many.
I know, there are so many inspirational people out there.
Oh my goodness, it's great. And sometimes it can be someone that you just talk to. You're inspiring me right now. So and it doesn't need to be some big author. Sometimes it's just talking to someone, and you're like, wow, look at what she did, right?
Yeah, I love that, because I feel like that's how I learned all my life. I didn't go to university. I just went from school and I traveled the world, and I learned from the most ordinary people.
Right.
But sometimes they've gone through things in their lives, and they're so wise, and what they teach you just from their personal experiences, I think, is so powerful. And I really feel like the amount I have learned from people that have surrounded me, from my mentors, from people that I have met along my journey, is just, I think it's more meaningful than any university in the world.
Right.
But really, that for me was I'm extremely grateful, and I agree to that. Speaking, just listening to others is sometimes, if there's one other person that you think I should speak to that has a unique perspective on integrative healing, would that be? Do you have anyone in mind?
Yes, our wonderful, outstanding OBGYN, Dr. Elizabeth Poyner. She's really quite something, and she's not only very, very smart, but she's also very kind and looks at women and our women's health in a very different way. Yeah. So I think it would be great for you to connect with her, and I'll of course facilitate that.
That would be amazing. Thank you so much. What is next in your personal healing journey? What are you most excited about?
Oh, wow. Yes, I have to. I think it's a daily thing, and I do have to be more aware of balance between work and life. And so I want to continue really learning about diet and learning about any strategy that will help me and others and are in our company continue to do a lot of research, and but for me personally is just to continue growing. That's always been my thing, and I love doing that. And sometimes you're faced with situations where it's going to teach you a lesson, and I take the lesson. It's good. Lessons are good.
And where can people follow you to keep up to date with all the wonderful things you're doing? Personally, with Globotanica, with the Hormone University?
At Hormone University, and that's our Instagram account. Globotanica, we're actually changing the name to Glow by Hormone University.
Okay, nice.
And we're going to be doing a whole rebranding, and that's all now integrated inside Hormone University.
Okay.
Personally, at Ana G. Herrera on Instagram. There's a lot of personal stuff there, but it's okay. hormoneuniversity.com.
Amazing. Yeah, we're also going to link to all of it on our YouTube channel, so everyone will find it more easily. Well, thank you so much.
Thank you.
This was so wonderful. I really appreciate it. I learned so much from you, and I'm so grateful that you came on and joined me for the Healing Hour.
Thank you so much. Thank you. It's my pleasure.
Thank you.